Hey guys, it's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. So I wanted to do a quick impressions video, or review if you will, on SLC Punk 2, Punk's Dead. I'm a pretty big fan of the first film. I thought it really touched upon, if you haven't seen the first film, it really touched upon the aging generation of you're getting older, you're maybe getting into your late 20s or early 30s, in my instance early 30s now, and you don't have that, piss and vinegar anymore. Not that I really ever had it. And you're just kind of, you're getting older, your opinions are changing, things are changing around you. You're not so much understanding, what the trend is now or what's going on. I was talking to my friend at work today about how some of these words I don't even get. What was the word? Was it something, a shade, throw a shade, fleek? I don't know. All these weird words her son says, and I was just like, I don't even know what it means, and most of the time it usually annoys me. So it's sort of like a coming of age type of story where it does focus on punks and punk culture, but it also then transitions to growing up and how things change and stuff. And there's a very, very sad moment in the first film that I would say I think almost made me cry once when I first saw it. It was just really sad. And it also was about friendship and bonding and how when you're growing up, so it's sort of like Stand By Me in a way. You're growing up and you have all these friends and you all come from different places, and then people grow apart, or maybe this guy's this kind of person or whatever they're into, and then you end up being into this and it just doesn't click anymore, or you get older and you go to school or whatever and you just drift off. So life gets in the way, So there's a lot of that type of stuff going on in the first film. The first film is really good. I would say most of the people who watch it really like it, and it's got a cult following. So James Maradino did a Indiegogo campaign. I think it was a few years ago now. I don't know if it was 2 or 3, and I was contemplating kicking in, but I'm not a big Indiegogo Kickstarter guy, as I said in some previous videos. So, and it was like $30 or $40 for, I think, a DVD copy or a Blu-ray copy, and I like tangible media. Either way, I was going to wait. So I ended up seeing it. And I understand what he was going for, I think, but I also don't think it touches the first film, which is most of the time what happens with sequels. So I made a couple notes here. I'm going to try and, reiterate them as best as possible. First and foremost, Heroin Bob's in the movie as a ghost, which I liked. He does come a little too much into the film, I think, with his commentary, but I did like to see him again, and some of the old characters like Devon Sawa and James Duval, who played Sean, and James Duval was John the Mod. I thought Bob's skull cap, because you could clearly see he's wearing a bald wig with a fake mohawk, was pretty bad. I thought that the effects in that regard were bad. I also want to say that the main characters, which it revolves around 3 people, it's Ross, who is like a long-haired kind of gothy-looking kid. Nancy was it, I think, who had long brown hair and pink ends, and she's like a car enthusiast, and they constantly make fun of her during the film and say she's guyish, or she's gay, or she's this, or she's that. And it also has a rapper that I didn't know was a rapper until a friend of mine told me, Machine Gun Kelly, who's like a twig kind of guy with all these tattoos. So, anyhow, that's in the new film. In the old film, the only people that make returns, which I think they did an admirable job trying to get these people to return, or at least using their characters, where, as I said, Devon Sawa, James Duval. The girl who plays Ross's mom her name is escaping me right now, but in the first movie, she's the one with the wig that was dating Heroin Bob, and then Heroin Bob had the overdose in the first film. Spoiler alert, you probably should have seen the first movie if you're watching a video about the second. So anyway, it's all about Ross, which is her son with Bob, who, Bob had died, so he didn't know he had a son. And then Bob commentating over the top of it. It's sort of like another spiritual journey or some kind of growing up kind of movie, the way the first film was, except the difference is I don't think it hit its mark the way the first film did. I think the first film had a strong presence. I think there was intelligence to it. I think that this one is sort of pseudo-intellectual. It tries to go off. It also seems younger. It seems like if you're in a younger crowd, you may appreciate it more. But I'm not 100% sure it even relates to the younger crowd. I'm 32 and it didn't relate to me and I didn't get anything out of it. If I was 18, would I have liked it better? Maybe. But I think I still would have appreciated the first one way more. The first one's just a much better film. I also don't know if there really was a reason to have this film. I think James Marandino is a pretty cool guy. I think he's got interesting, he's an interesting writer and director, and people love his first film, and he was sort of riding off of that now years later. There's been a big gap between when that movie came out and when this one came out, and people were probably hoping for this film or hoping for a sequel to see all their old favorites, but a lot of those favorites haven't returned. Another thing I found interesting was James Duvall and Sean Devon Sawa. Devon Sawa supposedly works for the government now in this movie, where in the first film he was a junkie, and he sold drugs or something, like acid. He totally doesn't seem like he's a government worker at all. I don't know if that's like the joke, like he's supposed to be like aloof and not give a fuck and say stupid shit, but to me he doesn't seem like he's a government worker. I work in government. He doesn't seem like it at all. And they also refer to being almost like uncle type figures to Ross, who is Bob, and I can't think of her name, the main woman, their kid. And in the first film, you don't get that feeling from Bob and these two characters. So I don't know how all of a sudden they're like these uncle figures to Ross. There's a lot of weird things like that where I think it tried to kind of make something more than it really was. I think it really lacks the message and delivery the first film had. I did appreciate, as I said, the cameos of the old people, though they didn't get Matthew Lillard. They didn't get who's the guy from Your Mom. Oh fuck! So How I Met Your Mother. I can't think of his name. The Jewish guy. He's in that other movie where his girlfriend leaves him and he goes to Hawaii and meets Mila Kunis. Whatever. I don't like him, but he's not in this movie either. Let's see. The best way for me to put it is this movie felt like a swan song for a band that was aging. It didn't quite hit its mark. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. It's interesting they're doing this, but it's not nearly as good as the first film, and it doesn't, for me, grab me the way the first film did, nor would I think it would grab the youth of today. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone who's 17 or 18 will watch this and go, this movie's fucking amazing. But to me, I didn't really like it. The story is kind of simplistic, but it is, like I said, the journey of Ross and his friends and growing up. The girl in the car, again, I think her name is Nancy. She has a very brief backstory that they touch upon with her dad, but they never touch upon anything again with her. And, slight spoiler, I guess, throughout the film, Ross is trying to get over his girlfriend who broke up with him. And he's kind of being weird, and he gets drunk and he acts like an idiot, and then he opens up a bit and starts coming out of his shell. And he's very different than the other two characters, Machine Gun Kelly and I think Nancy. And then at the end of the movie, after giving Nancy shit the whole film and this and that, and Machine Gun Kelly's giving Nancy shit, he's like, "Oh, I'm in love with you." It totally comes out of left field, doesn't feel right. Then she gives him some bullshit about, no, it's never going to happen. And he's like, why? And she's like, because you're not a one-night stand. You're the kind of guy that, she tries to be like she's smart, older than her years, which was annoying. You're the kind of guy that I end up with and have kids with, not have a one-night stand with. And I love you too. And it's like, what? So, it just totally came out of nowhere. It felt very, forced. And I didn't see that coming. I don't know why they included that. I guess they wanted some sort of love interest in the film. It was just weird. Overall, if you really love the first film, you should probably check it out just to see some of the characters. But I also think you're going to be kind of pissed off. I don't think it holds water compared to the first film. I don't think it hits the mark like the first film or what it's trying to achieve. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I know James Marandino and these Indiegogo people that kicked in money and all the other people on the staff and the actors probably put a lot into this. So I'm not trying to be an asshole and make fun of this movie and make people not buy it or make people not see it, but it didn't live up to what it should have. And I would assume James Marandino is getting older now and he doesn't have the gusto that he had during the first film. Maybe his opinions have changed, or maybe they haven't, and he's just still like the way he was when he made the first film, where he touched upon so many things, where now I don't know. It just doesn't click. Something about, he runs away, Ross, with these kids, and he's trying to go to this concert, and I just didn't give a fuck. I didn't care about Ross. I actually disliked him. um, the girl Nancy was okay, sort of annoying. And then Crash, who was Machine Gun Kelly, had like no backstory. There was nothing. He was just an idiot. He was just some idiot friend who acted like a retard. And then they do drugs at one point, get drunk, and I just couldn't relate, and I didn't feel for these people. So whatever they were going through didn't mean anything to me. Where in the first film with Heroin Bob dying and Matthew Lillard realizing, like, I got to grow the fuck up. I can't always be an idiot like this. He also just, they hit this point where, he loses a friend and he realizes things are changing, and it's a sad movie. I would say SLC Punk starts off kind of fun and goofy, but ends really sad. This one just kind of like middles in like the middle ground. I didn't feel any ups or downs. I didn't care for any of the characters. A lot of what was going on felt kind of unbelievable and forced. So if you're a big fan of the first film, you may want to skip this one just so you don't get angry. But you also may want to check it out. It was okay. It wasn't like, my God, this is unwatchable. But it was also not particularly a great movie or a good movie even. So I give it a eh. So that's really it. And again, if James Maradino for some reason watches this, or any of the staff or cast watches, I mean no disrespect. It just wasn't my cup of tea. So thanks guys for watching. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.